Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of This Nintendo Life for E3 2019 for Nintendo's Direct presentation that just happened today. That is the 11th of June. And so Bally and I are here, and we're pretty excited because Nintendo just kind of
dropped some
bombs.
E3.
They dropped some bombs. E3, I feel so far has been a little bit of a average affair, and Nintendo are like, hey, how about we bring the hype? And they certainly did today. So lots of things to talk about. Very excited. Bally, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good. I think they set a high bar for themselves, and that there were already a lot of things we knew they were going to talk about with this Direct that we knew would generate a lot of excitement, and they exceeded that bar with new announcements, new things we had no idea about, and that's very exciting. Very exciting. Strong all around. Yeah,
well, I think overall, I would say that up until kind of the end, I was like, this is solid. Like, they've done some solid announcements. The thing is, a lot of the stuff that was exciting was things we already knew existed, right? So, like, we knew Animal Crossing existed. We knew Luigi's Mansion existed, but we didn't have a good idea of what those games really were, right? So I think a lot of the excitement of this Direct was not necessarily big announcements for most of their games. For most of their games, it was, tell me a bit more about it. Like, what else can you tell me? So, you know, Astral Chain and, like, most of their lineup for the rest of this year was, okay, bit more info, get me more excited about these things that I don't really know what they are yet. And then they also had maybe I would say 4 big announcements probably, for me personally, I would say. But yeah, any grading you would give this at all?
Definitely B+ to A-.
Yeah,
maybe even an A.
I would say probably A-.
Yeah,
you know, I think it was maybe missing that one more like other Nintendo IP announcement, like, you know, throw a Pikmin in there or something. And I think that would round out like.
Or
an
I
A.
think I would have maybe gone for an A had they not pushed back Animal Crossing, or we'd seen a bit more of Animal Crossing. But we can get into that.
Sure.
That's the one that maybe slid a bit, you could say.
Yeah, definitely, just a little bit there. So let's kick things off talking about the start of the Direct, where they showed the next Super Smash Bros. Character. This was, of course, teased by Mr. Sakurai after the Super Smash Bros. World Championships event that they had on Saturday, which I did not stay awake for because I was pretty certain they were not going to announce a Smash Bros. Character.
They haven't in quite a while.
No, they haven't. So I was like, yep, that's probably going to be that. And they did announce at the end of that competition that they were going to show it during the Direct, and this is what we got. And I fully expected this to be the only Smash announcement that we got, but more on that later. However, the rumours were confirmed. The idea that the Dragon Quest protagonist, a lot of people were saying Erdrick because that was the name that was floating around a lot. Erdrick, of course, I talked about this last time and made an addendum to the naming thing. There's lots of stupid things with names in Dragon Quest and localization and everything. But yeah, Erdrick being like the main character from Dragon Quest 3, who is like the original Dragon Quest protagonist, you know, has that Akira Toriyama design. But as soon as this trailer started, I was like, oh shit, that white horse, I know that white horse, that is from Dragon Quest 11. They're gonna reveal this character as the Luminary, which is the main character from Dragon Quest 11. But they do call the character the hero, which kind of is just like a more generic term that applies to every Dragon Quest hero, I guess. So I think that's the most exciting thing about this announcement for me, is that there are so many references and so many nods to the Dragon Quest series, and of course Sakurai would do that. Of course he's going to just go to painstaking detail when it comes to these characters, and you know, Joker was already just such a delight. This is another delight for me. It's another big franchise that I really care about, and having those costumes for like the protagonist from 8, the protagonist from 4, and obviously Erdrick as well, I think that they've just done a stellar job of showing that as a character, and everything it has to offer. Just was really cool, and some like unique things with the spell casting as well. Like there seems to be a pseudo like Dragon Quest menu there where you get to choose your spells. So maybe I'm imagining like your B attack has certain spells like bound to it, and you can switch what those spells are, whether it be like a reflector or a fire spell or an ice spell. Like, seems really well designed and thought out, just as, you know, Sakurai usually does. So I'm really excited personally. I think a lot of the internet was a bit down on this announcement, and I think me as well was like, okay, cool. It's another sword character. Like, I'm not super jazzed for that, but I think they made a case for it with this trailer. I think they showed up and they said, hey, it's not just another sword character. Like, we've got some fun magic in there. We are using so many references from this series that has such a history on Nintendo platforms, especially. Has such a rich lore and so many different characters over the years. And that final smash as well is amazing. All the characters, every hero from every Dragon Quest game, just doing a big, super crazy move. I really loved it. I thought it was much stronger than the leaks would have suggested in terms of a character for me.
Yeah, I thought it was strong. I'm not tied direct to Dragon Quest in any way. It's a game, a series I'd like to try out sometime. I share the concerns people have with like another sword wielding character, but from what I know about Dragon Quest, and as you said, it is representing the series well. It's cool that there's like loads of protagonists you can play as. I think that obviously Dragon Quest is a huge series in Japan, and Smash Brothers tends to lean towards the more Japan-focused series, and that's great. For
sure.
And that's kind of why the announcement near the end is also another big surprise. But like, I just think it was solid. It's more, unfortunately, in my mind, more of like a tick box. Like, right, gotta get that Dragon Quest coverage in Smash Brothers. That's a great thing, and like, I'm glad people are happy for that. I'm not personally super excited about it, but it's a cool thing that adds just another strength to what is already an ridiculous game overall.
For sure. Yeah, and I do feel like, I'm getting a lot of love here because, like, I fucking love Persona. I'm a huge Dragon Quest fan, so these first two DLC characters...
You like a lot of very Japanese games, and
exactly,
this game
yeah.
is rewarding that preference.
Sure, definitely. And it is important, right? Dragon Quest is one of the most important franchises in video games, so it makes sense that it should be represented in Smash Brothers. The thing that I will say is a little bit weird, right, is because Square Enix has tended to be a bit strange about a lot of the stuff that's included in Smash Brothers. You look at Cloud, and there's no spirits from Final Fantasy represented in Smash Brothers. There's 2 songs, maybe. There's the stage, which is great, but, like, there is such limitation placed on what Cloud can be in Smash Brothers because for whatever reason Square Enix don't want to go the Castlevania route like Konami and let Nintendo put 30 Castlevania tracks into Smash Brothers. It seems right now that like they're actually giving a lot more love to Dragon Quest than they are to Final Fantasy, and I wonder why that is, and if we will get more music than the Final Fantasy has in terms of representation. But like, as a full character that represents their entire series, their entire franchise, I think the hero does a far better job than, say, Cloud does. But again, I feel like as a franchise, each Dragon Quest game is way more similar to one another than Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy games are just so different all across the board.
Is it possible there's some relationship with Sony and the Final Fantasy VII remake that they just
I don't
weren't
know.
comfortable at some level in
Yeah, I don't know.
having all that coverage for Nintendo?
I really have zero idea what their, thoughts were regarding Cloud and why it's such a limited inclusion in Smash Brothers, despite the fact he's a great character and I think he's really well designed and represented and the stage is great, but there's just not much else like outside of that very limited scope, whereas it seems like they're really going whole hog with the hero here, and the stage is awesome. The stage is like this overworld view with the Tree of Life in the background and like that entire overworld of Dragon Quest XI, which is just gorgeous and just sweeping and majestic. Yeah, I'm super in, and it wasn't dropped today. It wasn't a shadow drop. I thought it would be. I thought it was inevitable that we would get the Smash character, go download it right now, play it right now, but we didn't quite get that, which is fine. It said summer, and talking about, like, we'll talk about it later, but the other Smash Brother character that got released or announced is slated for fall, which... Or holiday. I can't remember which one it said. But in terms of the schedule for this, like, they're supposed to put all 5 characters out by February 2020. And if we're only getting 2 more characters this year, then we're behind schedule by 1 character, which means that they're probably going to have to push it out to like May or June of next year.
There's no way it's all going to come before then, I guess. They're going to push it.
Unless they do some crazy thing and then the last 2 characters, they drop them both at the same time or something stupid. But that would be a bit stupid in terms of marketing, because Nintendo can milk the hell out of marketing when it comes to that stuff. interestingly, they follow up this trailer with marketing, right? I mean, they do cut to Dragon Quest XI S, and we see a bit of a trailer for that. And obviously, that game is coming out, and it got a release date, which I believe is September 27th. So that game has a release date on Switch now, finally, which they didn't give it during the Square Enix press conference the other day. So that's pretty great that they have finally dated it. It's finally coming out. The first game announced for the Nintendo Switch is finally coming, Bally. It only took them 6 years, but the first game ever announced for the NX was Dragon Quest XI, the first ever game, and it's finally coming. So there you go. That's pretty exciting, and I do wonder. We can speculate on this again when we talk about the Final Smash character. But hey, that marketing seemed pretty timed to when we're talking about Dragon Quest on the Switch, and here's a Dragon Quest character. Does that say anything? Speculation abounds, of course. And then we cut to Kazooie. Kazooie introduces, kind of talks us through, and he's like, "Hey, I want to introduce you to someone." And a CG Bowser pops up in a tie, and he starts trying to talk, but he can't talk because he's Bowser and he doesn't speak English, apparently. And then rolls in Doug Bowser, which, there's your Bowser joke. So we got out of the way. We have had our Bowser joke. I think that Doug Bowser can now host these presentations without having to do any self-referential humour.
It's nice he got an introduction.
Yeah, it was good. I think it was a really good...
Handled it well.
Definitely, because I was skeptical he was even going to be in the Direct. Like, I didn't know what type of president he was going to be. Yeah. And it's good that he's getting his face out there, being a face of Nintendo, because Reggie is... Reggie's loss will be felt heavily. And I think that, he's not going to replace him or anything, but he at least can bring his own style and his own spin to things. So
Reggie always had that E3 slot. Like, I imagine Koizumi will continue to do the outside of E3 Directs.
Definitely,
most of them. And yeah, it was nice he was introduced. We get the Bowser joke out the way, and I thought he was good. Like, it worked.
Yeah. I think he'll do a fine job. So after that, we have our first kind of deep look at Luigi's Mansion 3, a game that we hadn't seen a lot of, was announced last year, and it's an exciting announcement, but for me, I wasn't really too jazzed about it because we just didn't see enough. Like, it didn't look different enough to me, and I can confidently say after this showing of Luigi's Mansion 3 that I am way in. I am way more excited for this game. Really, really cool stuff they showed off. Lots of different things. Anything you want to pick out that they showed from Luigi's Mansion 3, Bally, that kind of stuck out to you?
I think the whole look of, like, the designs, like the variety, I think the scope of the size of rooms, and especially like the height of the ceilings and stuff like that, it just feels a bit bigger. And the lighting with, like, obviously this is the first HD Luigi's Mansion. I think the lighting looks incredible. And some of those themes, like, there's a real Twilight Zone Tower of Terror theme going on with one of the areas, and then the hotel theme where it's just different ideas stacked on top of each other, like some of the more viney areas, cold areas. It was a really nice variety, and I think that mixing up the battle system a bit with, like, some subtle things where you can, like, grab them and throw the ghosts back on other ghosts and
just, like, slam them into the ground
and like the area smash. Like, these are just some really nice things to improve what's already a pretty good system, like what the game goes for.
Totally. And we talked about the original Luigi's Mansion not that long ago, and it's pretty fresh in my mind. So things like the annoying banana peel ghosts, where, like, you didn't have much of a choice. Sometimes they would just throw you onto them randomly, and, like, you could just cling on for dear life, but there wasn't much else you could do from a combat perspective, really, to kind of get out of that situation. But now, having that notion that you can now slam the ghost into the ground, if you are surrounded by them, you can kind of let out this ground pound charge that does an area of effect that kind of clears your space, so you can have a bit more space to breathe. I think all of those additions that we've seen so far not only, like, really improve the flow of combat, but also show a lot of potential for puzzle solving, right?
Yeah.
Like, they showed a little bit of the plunger that can attach to objects and then be yanked back off. So, like, we have a ghost with a shield that you throw the plunger onto, and then you yank the shield away from the ghost to catch it. So I really like that puzzle solving within combat, but also, just outside of it, going around and, finding random chests that you can slam on the ground.
And like Luigi, where you can go across spikes, and, like, you create that kind of controlling, like, a remote bot or something, like a drone.
Definitely.
Like, that can really just mix up the puzzle.
I imagine they came up with the concept for Luigi like in development on this game, and they were also in development on the remake, and so they're like, let's put this like nod to the game we're working on right now into the remake, which is fun because I mean, Luigi wasn't really a thing in the remake. All he was a multiplayer siphon. So if you wanted to do the multiplayer, the other person would appear as Luigi. And yeah, it was, I don't know, kind of a weird thing, but yeah, I like his inclusion as again a means of traversal, a means of solving puzzles, and I really agree with you. I think this idea that it seems that Luigi's Mansion 3, it's pitched as they're going to a hotel, but this is this crazy hotel where it's a bunch of weird buildings like built on top of each other, and you just look at the artwork for kind of the main building, and there's such variety in terms of the weird kind of parts of buildings that are just like randomly screwed over and kind of just like attached. It shows that there's this real variety that they're going for in terms of locales and just areas generally. And I think the idea will be, hey, there's something at the top, we've got to get to the top. It does seem like a bottom to top, like we're gonna kind of go through the entire area vibe to me. So yeah, that kind of seems like a lot of stuff there. They also showed multiplayer, which, you know, they've had multiplayer in the past on 3DS. We never really dug into that too much. I don't think it works particularly well.
It looks fine. I'm surprised they feel they need to include a mode like that. I mean, it's fine. We'll see.
They've got to justify their online somehow, don't they? So there you go. Next one is a weird one.
Really
we
weird.
get a Netflix logo and we see some random animals on a, you know, Fire Emblem Final Fantasy Tactics like turn-based board, and they're shooting arrows at each other, and there's some weird spells, and it keeps cutting back to this puppet guy who's really weird, like as a monster, and he's talking some nonsense, and it gets revealed that this is a tie-in game, I guess, to the new series from Jim Henson, the Dark Crystal, and it's called Dark Crystal Age of Resistance Tactics. So it's a tactics game that I guess Nintendo are publishing, maybe? I don't know, because I know Netflix were getting out there doing some video game stuff recently. I think they were supposed to have some conference around E3, actually. I don't know if Netflix are publishing games on Switch or what this is, if you know, this is a Netflix published game on Switch or how that's working, but it's weird, I guess. Like, I mean, they also showed later on in the Direct the Stranger Things 3 trailer for that game. So it does seem that they are kind of getting in there with some like low budget games, like lo-fi games essentially, that can have some representation of their series and be, you know, things that I guess are extra marketing for them to some degree. It looks up my alley, you know, like it's a tactics game, which I'm always down for. It wasn't anything that stuck out to me, but it's like, you know, sure. Any thoughts, Bally?
Yeah, it looked very weird. It's hard to get excited at all about something that I know like nothing about, and the Jim Henson character just seems so strange, and like the Netflix logo complete.
Are you a Henson fan?
I don't know. I guess I don't know what.
Okay.
What should I like that Jim Henson's done?
Well,
like,
he did Muppets. Didn't he?
Sure.
Muppets?
I know he's obviously behind the Muppets, but like I've never been the hugest Muppets fan, or like Sesame Street or whatever. I mean, Sesame Street absolutely growing up, but like,
I mean, thinking about it, right? Nintendo actually have a good relationship with the Henson brand because of the collaboration they did at E3 before, you know, with the puppets.
Oh right, got you. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
With the Star Fox
Henson,
puppets, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And like Henson, I think has been linked with Star Wars and Lucas for a long time as well. So like, definitely that influence is big. The Netflix thing threw me off, where I was like, is this on Netflix? Is this a game on Netflix? And then
it was really weird. It was a strange presentation for sure. It kind of just threw me off my banner a little. Anyway, that seemed neat for whatever it was. Link's Awakening. Bally, talk to me about Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening is looking gorgeous. Like, Nintendo come up with a lot of really nice looking art designs and styles with games like Breath of the Wild and Yoshi's Woolly World and like, I don't know, a game like Wario Land Shake Dimension, like really unique, good looking styles. But I think this might be my favorite. I don't know, all the claymation stuff with Kirby.
It's pretty up there, man. It's pretty up there.
It's kind of like similar to the claymation stuff with Kirby, but just better and like more toy-like, less clay-like, and it just seems to work so well. And the lighting, the bloom, the HD just looks really, really crisp and perfect. And taking what a game was a fairly simple game when it comes to the nuts and bolts, and then just really, really making it as smooth an experience as possible with this remake. I think I am a big Link's Awakening fan, and I think this is just looking incredible. And
yeah, it looks great.
The dungeon stuff was very confusing, and I think you understood that better than I did while watching it.
Sure, like they kind of, I mean, they did the trailer, and then they gave us a release date of like September 20th.
Which is nice and soon.
And we saw some stuff like the boss of Eagle's Tower and stuff, which is like side on exactly like it was in the original game. I love that they're like, they say it's a remake, but it doesn't really seem like they are actually changing that much. It does seem very faithful in a lot of ways, but we'll see. But there is an extra mode that you can do, which is taking sections of the dungeons that already exist within the game and then creating your own dungeon out of it, like making your own challenges almost. Which reminded me to some degree of Skyward Sword, the final dungeon of Skyward Sword, where you don't create the dungeon, but the dungeon is constantly moving. You're constantly moving the rooms around and shuffling them. And I don't think that's what this is. This is more, you start out and you design the dungeon, so you place all the different rooms together, and then you play through it and see if you can beat it. Probably like some time challenges, some health challenges, stuff like that, I guess. It's not really up my alley in terms of like an addition to the game, but it seems like if they're going to add something new, then, you know, something completely different makes sense, I guess. So yeah, but it is coming very soon. It's September 20th. So looking at a lineup so far for the next few months, we've got Mario Maker end of this month, then Fire Emblem, then Astral Chain, then Link's Awakening. And we should mention, no release date for Luigi's Mansion given. Just said 2019 still.
My theory on this is that they're trying to nail it for Halloween, but they're not confident of nailing it for Halloween. And so they want to give themselves wiggle room for the October, November, December area.
I feel like if things go to plan, then it will come out in October, because then that will give Nintendo a slam dunk of Mario Maker, Fire Emblem, Astral Chain, Link's Awakening, Luigi's Mansion, Pokemon. Like, that is just a fucking stacked lineup, which would be great. If things don't go according to plan, I can see it being a December game instead. So skipping October and becoming the December game.
I just hope it comes out this year for my fantasy critic, MBZ. That's obviously the most important thing in this entire scenario.
Man, RIP a lot of 2019 games, like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Animal Crossing, of course, but, you know, that's how it goes. Sometimes no one can predict anything. Cool. Then they showed some stuff from the Mana series, a series which I've played a little bit of. I've played some Secret of Mana, maybe about 2 or 3 hours of the first Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo Classic. Really cool game. I want to get back to it. It's one of those games I'd love to play with you, co-op, Bally. Like,
yeah,
it's definitely up my alley. And I think maybe it might be better to just get the collection if they have like online co-op. I'm not sure if they do. That would be a great thing to add if they do have that. But They announced Trials of Mana, which apparently is Seiken Densetsu 3, which is the game that everyone talks about because it was never localized. They put out Secret of Mana, and then they put out the second game, which I can't remember what it's called. But Seiken Densetsu 3, Secret of Mana 3, is the game that people have clamoured for forever. And it's being called Trials of Mana, and is being remade fully in 3D, but is also coming, the original, translated in the collection for the West. Which I know this is an announcement that is, it's not a mainstream one. This will make a lot of hardcore fans very, very happy. So I'm glad it's there. It's a really good, feel-good announcement. I'm glad it's happening. And it's a series I want to get into. I want to play some more Mana. So great that the collection is just there on Switch now. I'm excited about that. And then if this hadn't been leaked, this might have been one of the craziest announcements of the Direct.
But, it was almost one of those leaks people didn't really believe, though.
No, I didn't believe it because I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Don't do this. Okay, there are two things that I love in this world, Bally. One of them is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The other is the Nintendo Switch. I love them individually and independently. I love them differently from each other. They can live separately from one another. I'm sorry, but they don't go together. I'm sure this is great for people. I'm happy that people get to play The Witcher 3 because it is one of the greatest games ever made. It is exceptional. It is just brilliant beyond belief. But what they showed, and from what I can think of how that game runs, even on a console of current generation like the PlayStation 4, is kind of awful. The frame rate has constant issues. There are moments where it dropped to 20 frames per second, pretty consistently on the PlayStation 4 version. I think they've patched that now and have fixed a lot of it. but like it was a rough experience. You know, if you're playing Witcher 3, that's a PC game, man. Like, play that game on PC. Do not accept anything less than 60 frames per second for the glory that is The Witcher 3. It deserves it. And that's one of the disappointing things about it coming to Switch, is that this is a gorgeous game. It's one of the best looking games I've ever seen in my life. Bally, you remember when I showed it to you for the first time?
It was the first I've seen of like your PC just running a game well beyond what any console could do at the time.
Yes.
And it still can. But it's just
exactly
ridiculous. I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place on this one, because Caroline saw Witcher 3, and I've been telling her about Witcher 3 because she obviously loved Breath of the Wild and she's keen to try this game.
Yeah, she's big into open world games and stuff,
yeah,
isn't she? So.
But she's way more keen on the Switch and just the pick up and play nature of it. Like, I play a bit in bed, play a bit in the morning, get up
and that's
play
the thing that is hard for me to argue against.
Right.
It's like, yeah, Witcher 3 Portable sounds fucking great. Of course it does, you know?
So she wants it on Switch, but I would side more with... I know you say PS4, like that obviously doesn't run as well as PC, but in theory it should run better than Switch. So I'm kind of torn between eventually buying two versions, one for Caroline, one for me, on Switch and PS4. But I might just let her get the Switch one and like try it after her, and then if it's absolutely horrible, maybe pick it up on PS4. I don't know, but I do want to play it.
Alternatively, wait for next generation. It'll be remastered for PS5 and it'll probably run as good as it did on my PC on PS5, you know, potentially.
That's a pretty good shout as well. So yeah, I'm in no rush to jump in on Witcher 3
for sure. But hey, crazy that's happening. That's pretty fucking cool. Great. Then we got another look at Three Houses for Fire Emblem, which was a more of a story-focused trailer that dug a little bit deeper into some of the stuff that's going on more widely in the narrative. They talk about going 5 years in the future, like come back after, hey, we're all finishing up at the academy, let's meet up again. So it feels like this is like the second half of the game being revealed almost, that, there's these students at this academy. That's going to be the first half of the game, and then the second half of the game is going to be 5-year time jump, and then there's a war happening and some crazy shit, and they all have to come together. Some of them are going to be on opposite sides to each other. They're going to be like, we were friends at school, but now we're against each other. We have to kill each other in the real battlefield type scenario, which I think is a cool idea. It kind of gives them license, I think, as someone mentioned on stream when I was live streaming my reaction to this, to allow you to date your students, because after they've left, after 5 years, it's like, that's reasonable now that you could date your students. Sure, why not do that? And also maybe lends credence to more of the kids stuff coming back, which I don't think they will do. 5 years isn't enough to justify kids. If you did, you'd have a fucking 5-year-old, and that's not helpful in a Fire Emblem game. So yeah, I really doubt that it's going to be anything crazy along those lines. What I do feel is going to happen is that there is going to be this story divide. It does mention we have the dragon lady girl, the Manicat lady, who I think she's kind of tiki, but maybe not. She's got big green hair, probably a dragon girl. And I imagine that there is going to be some jumping back and forth, right? Because she's like, hey, you can see the future and you can see the past, and like there's this timeline stuff going on. Are you going to jump between these two places and kind of figure things out? So enticing. I think I'm very excited to see some gameplay of that in the treehouse. I really want to see how that plays a bit more. Maybe they'll show some of the academy, things like that, and a bit more explanation as to what's kind of going on in this world. But feels like it's going to be a big game, and they are putting a budget behind it, man. Like, a lot of cutscenes, a lot of voice acting, really showing that they are kind of continuing what they started with Echoes, because I think a lot of people were surprised by how much voice acting there was in that 3DS game, which was a remake of a very old game in the series. And this is a brand new game, so they are giving it the full treatment, loads of characters, loads of stuff. It's exciting. How are you feeling about Three Houses, Bally?
Yeah, I remember when we had that chat about like spoilers and plot. So when all this stuff, these cutscenes were happening, I was just kind of zoning out a bit. And there wasn't a whole lot of gameplay, was there, really, from this trailer? So,
no, there wasn't. It was a story-focused trailer, so... Yeah,
so I was kind of zoned out, to be honest. I'm pumped enough to pick up Fire Emblem, and I want to see that story without, like, seeing the details. And I know that I kind of maybe rate Fire Emblem stories a bit better than yourself, but I would still like to kind of see what some of those twists and turns might be.
Sure. Yeah, it's exciting. I want to play it. It's coming out soon. we don't have long to wait, so I'll wait, and we'll play it then when it comes out, end of July. Then we had a weird trailer where two people go to a haunted, spooky house and play some Resident Evil on their Switch.
Really?
And I was like,
weird trailer for like a re-release or like a remake.
Yeah, I was like, where is this going? And it's like, oh, we're going to put out the people's least favorite Resident Evil games on Switch just so that we can say we have every Resident Evil on Switch. I fully expect Resident Evil 7 to be ported in some weird way to it. It kind of is with the cloud version in Japan and stuff like that, but hey, every Resident Evil is on Switch. Like, Switch seems like the dumping ground for classic franchises. It's like, hey, here's every Castlevania, here's every Contra game, here's every Resident Evil game, here's every Final Fantasy game. To be frank with you, I'm down for it, man. Like, give me all the classic games on the Switch. I'll play all of them, except for Resident Evil, of course, because we're big wusses and we hate Resident Evil. But, you know, hey, some people like Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 5 is kind of a co-op focused game, so it kind of took away the single player thing. You could play it single player, but I think it was mainly focused on the co-op experience. And then 6 is just a game, by all accounts, is just garbage. So, yeah, don't play 6, I guess. But hey, both of those are out. If you care, then there you go. Then we have one of my favourite announcements of the Direct, which was being teased for a few days before this happened by none other than Suda51 himself, who, you know, he came out on stage at the Switch presentation back in January of 2017 and talked about his plans to potentially bring Travis Touchdown back. And, of course, we had the weird spin-off game with Travis Strikes Again that came out, and I don't think was a great game, didn't review very well, didn't do very well commercially, but regardless, it seems like Suda51 wants to make No More Heroes 3 despite the lack of success of the spin-off game. And let me tell you, I'm a big fan of No More Heroes, so I am very, very excited for this. You know, I played No More Heroes 2, I think 2 years ago, maybe it was, and that game surprised me in so many ways. It's just crazy off the wall, just super subversive, and I think that Suda deals in that stuff, so I'm very excited for him to get back into it with No More Heroes 3 and give us some lunacy, give us some craziness, man. I want to play some more of that game, for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of I was never that into like the look of No More Heroes. I know you were quite a big fan of it, MBZ, and I don't know if I could just jump in.
Yeah, the first one's a great game.
Right. And was the second one on Wii as well?
The second one is on Wii. The first two are on Wii. They didn't. I don't think they remastered them at all. I believe they actually put them out on PS3 with Move support because the Wii remote was a big deal. But yeah, they haven't been remastered, which might happen. I think that might happen before this comes out, which would be good for Switch for sure.
So I might give them a go. It's not top of my list of priorities, and from this Direct, there's certainly like a ton for me to play like on Switch in the coming few years, to be honest.
Yeah, way too much for one person to feasibly play. And then they showed a really bad Contra game. I can't remember what it was called. It was just...
It was so weird.
It looked awful. To be frank, like visually, frame rate, it was just muddy. It was like kind of a twin-stick shooter to some degree, like isometric perspective. It's got the Contra name on it. Doesn't look like a Contra game to me in any fashion, so that's not very exciting at all. But they did promote the Contra collection, which is coming out, which seems to have every Contra game under the sun on it. And hey, if that has online, I will gladly pick that up at some point so that we can both have a bit of a bash through some of those other Contra games that we haven't played, because we've only played Contra 3, and I have to say it's one of my favourite co-op experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, we loved it. That was a really great co-op experience.
It's fantastic. So
with save states, of course.
Yes, of course. But hey, you know, if that's happening, I'm pretty much down for it at some point to do that. Cool. Then we had Daemon X Machina get another trailer. This game looks bad. I played the demo, you know, when it came out, and was not impressed by it. Still looks kind of rough.
We first saw this E3 last year, didn't we?
We did, yeah. It was the first game shown at E3 last year, and still not out. So there's Nintendo's promise of only showing 2019 things. Clearly not. They literally made no pretense of that in this Direct. For God's sake, there are so many things that are not 2019. But yeah, so that's coming out in September. I think it's going to bomb, probably. I don't think it's going to do very well, and I don't.
There's just too much else coming out as well. Like, I think there's a lot of even very good games that are going to sell very badly, like later this year.
And maybe they've taken feedback from the demo and improved it somewhat. But like from what I played, it basically just put off me ever playing that game. It was just not. It was not good. It was a very, very bad demo, and I was very, very quickly unsold on that game, having been kind of interested in it. You know, it just kind of dissipated my anticipation. Then we have Panzer Dragoon, which I don't know if this is a remake or just a port of the original Panzer Dragoon. I believe I'm not 100% sure on this.
The best.
I think
Like it looked a little ugly.
It looked old, and I believe Panzer Dragoon is a Dreamcast thing. I feel like that might be a thing, or it's a Sega thing. I feel like it's a Sega thing to some degree. But then there was like another one that was on Xbox and stuff like that. I haven't followed this series super closely, but I know this game, and it's cool that it's coming out. I guess that's a neat announcement for a lot of people. So Panzer Dragoon. Cool. Then we had a bit of a chat with Shinya Takahashi, who is kind of the guy who leads up software and hardware at Nintendo, kind of the guru in charge of it all. And he talked a bit about Pokemon Sword and Shield. Talk to me about Pokemon Sword and Shield, Bally.
It's a game. The direct was like last week, and they were just reminding us that it's here, and we can store a Pokemon in our Pokeball and go for a walk with it, because everyone wants to do that.
Do you reckon they're going to sell that Pokeball again?
Probably. But I don't care. I just want to play that game because it looked cool.
You never had Heart Gold Soul Silver, did you?
I never did. I gave up.
No.
Well, I'm going to get back into it with Pokemon Sun, obviously, like I always say.
Yeah.
But no, my last game was Diamond Pearl.
Right, yeah. Because they had the fun little Pokewalker thing that came with Heart Gold Soul Silver, where you could basically take a Pokemon onto it and like a Tamagotchi carry it around, and it had like
Did you
nice
do it?
little display. I did, yeah. I remember being in Edinburgh one weekend and like running around with a stupid Pokemon with it. I did it once.
And what does that get you? Some levels?
Yeah, it levels them up. It got you like rare candies and shit, like free items, I guess. Which I imagine it's a similar thing with this. It's like, hey, you will level up if you walk with it, which is fun. Like, encourages people to walk. Fair enough. Pokemon Go is doing that already. So, cool. Great. Good. Then we had another trailer for Astral Chain, the second trailer, which this time was a bit more story-focused as well. And I think the big thing we learned from this trailer is that the beings that you attach yourselves to, the kind of co-op partner with the Astral Chain, are in fact the enemies, like are the demons that are coming through from the other realm. So they're kind of like Pokemon, right? You're catching them and then they're on your side and then they fight for you. So I wonder if there's going to be any Pokemon-esque elements to this game in terms of deciding like how many of these things that you're attached to do you have? Like, do you have a rotating party of them? Do you only have one that you have to decide on and then switch according to maybe story things? Yeah, it looks really good. I'm very in for this game. It's super stylized. It has such a good vibe to it, and it also was showing a bit more kind of puzzly stuff, like using bows and arrows to shoot some targets and like going on rotating platforms. It feels a bit more fleshed out than just a pure platinum action game, which I'm down for platinum action. That's I love what they do. But it does feel maybe a bit more bigger in scope, which is fun. Definitely has excitement for me. So yeah. Any thoughts on?
Yeah, Astral Chain. It's just not doing it for me. It's just not my style of game. I think like it's doing a thing that is just not aimed at me in the slightest. Like I wasn't really into Bayonetta from having played the demo, and I appreciate it's not as actiony maybe as that, but it's just there's something about it that just doesn't gel with me. And I'm like, for all I know, it's probably going to be a great game, and if I do try it, I'll probably love it. But I mean, there's something about what I've seen so far. It just doesn't gel with me.
Yeah, that's fine, fair enough. And I was never into these types of games before, but I think for me the thing that sticks out is just the style of it. And I think I can enjoy a game with a great style that is just a little bit off the wall, a bit more than you can potentially. I think that's where it comes down to, is like maybe this is the case with No More Heroes as well, because like No More Heroes is not this type of game, but like it does have
there's something similar about it that's quite hard to explain, but
sure, it's a kind of a Japanese wackiness to some degree.
Japanese wackiness, I think, is a fair description.
Yeah.
And also, I think if it was the one game coming out on Switch for the rest of the year, then of course I'd pick it up. But like we're in such a density of incredible games.
It is a storm. Yeah.
I just need 1 month where my wallet isn't bleeding, just to get to the end of the year. Like, me and Caroline, we're moving into a flat, and got
to save money.
Got that 1 month where I don't just throw my money at the wall. But yeah,
for sure, great. Cool. Then they showed Empire of Sin, which is a new game from John Romero. Romero, of course, the guy behind Doom. Big, very famous in the PC development scene, and he's putting out this kind of top-down, isometric, like detective shooter style game, which had a neat look to it. It doesn't really stand out to me. It's not my jam, but neat. That's cool. And kind of in the same vein, another top-downy, like isometry, actiony game, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which continues to be like, hey, that's cool that Nintendo are publishing this and it's exclusive and everything, but it's not the Marvel game I want to play. And I don't know if that other Marvel game that they showed is the one I want to play either, but we'll find out.
It's a thing, though.
Game, yeah, it's a thing at least. So cool. I think that's coming out sometime soon. So yeah, excellent there. Then they put another trailer for Cadence of Hyrule. That is, I thought was going to be shadow dropped in this direct. I felt it in my bones.
Maybe they tried, but something just didn't quite work out at the very last minute, and they had to just. Yeah. I don't know. It just feels weird that it's 2 days after.
This was the Hollow Knight of this direct for me in terms of like I thought this was going to be like, here it is and it's out today, go download it, which we surprisingly didn't really have throughout this whole direct. We didn't really have a shadow drop.
We had it for something.
There was something. Yeah,
was it
maybe
Resident Evil? No, it was
maybe I don't know.
It was one of the mana things.
Oh right, okay.
One of
maybe
them
it was the
manas.
collection, the
That's
mana
the one.
collection. I think
Yeah.
it might have been.
I think it was that
Okay.
one.
All right. Well, yeah, no shadow drop on that. That's fine. Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, I want to play that game.
Yeah,
it looks
I'm gonna
really good.
Pick it up day one. I never got around to trying out. What's the word I'm looking for?
Cadence, the Necrodancer.
Curse of the Necrodancer.
Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Crypt of the Necrodancer. I never
Yes.
tried that, but I just want to jump straight in day one on this one.
Yeah, same. I don't think I need to try Crypt.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have said good things about it, and
Just need
this
that.
is Zelda music.
Give it a
not,
good old Nintendo lick of paint, and I'm right there. That's
exactly.
me, Nintendo
We're
fanboy.
suckers. Look at us. We're
Absolute
goddamn
suckers.
Then they showed off the next Mario and Sonic at the Olympics game, which sure. Those still exist.
It's kind of special because it's in Tokyo this time, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if they're doing anything special for it.
Mario is the mascot of the Olympics, I thought.
Is he? Oh, cool. Okay, that's fun. Yeah, I mean, these games exist. They have existed in time in memoriam. It's kind of like Just Dance. It's like there will be a Just Dance on Wii. There will always be a Mario and Sonic at the Olympics games for as long as there are Olympics.
Was it coming out this year, and do they normally come out a year ahead of the Olympics?
I believe they... I don't know. It's
coming out
worked
spring?
weirdly in the past. It's like sometimes they come out at the same time. Sometimes they're like a year removed. I don't know. It's weird. Whatever.
It's a weird
it's
series
happening.
that has just kept on going in a way I didn't think it was going to do.
Yeah, it's a minigame collection. It's a decently fun minigame collection.
Yeah.
I remember my cousin owned it, and I played it one Christmas a bunch on Wii when it was there, when it was kind of the biggest thing going on Wii. But yeah, not really something that I pay much attention to these days. But hey, that's good for kids. Kids will enjoy it. Okay, and then we finally get to the reveal of the new Animal Crossing game. And it is called Animal Crossing New Horizons. And we get a trailer that kind of shows an island lifestyle. We're on an island. We've got a tent. We are building out our, place and trying to, have a home here and have a life here. And a lot of it is showing some crafting stuff that they've started to be hinting at. I don't know how deep that is, but it is kind of similar to what I was talking about.
We saw like a crafting table, didn't we? And we saw you collecting things.
Right, so you are collecting kind of bits and bobs. I have a little concern about this crafting stuff and how mobile gamey it will be. I don't know. I think like the Animal Crossing game on mobile didn't give me faith in a lot of things in Animal Crossing, and I hope they're not taking game design lessons from that game because Jesus, you should never do that. I don't know. I'm just a little bit wary of it. I think it'll be fine ultimately, but I don't want like any stupid mobile stuff infiltrating the real Animal Crossing. But crafting is something that I've said, like, or at least a bit of a deeper customization system, right? Should be something that they do, and it does seem like we have that. Like we see a lot of different little bits and pieces. There's like a little cooking fire. There's a little bench that you make for yourself. And then we have some new items that we've not seen before. So one of the cool ones that kind of made me go, whoa, is a pole that lets you vault over rivers. What a smart thing to do, because that's one of the most frustrating things. Like when you have a town in Animal Crossing that is like bisected by a river, which
you can't move your bridges either.
You can't move your bridges, and I tended to always get towns which had like one side and the other side, and there's a fucking river in the middle, and it was always a pain, and it was always annoying to go around. And like this is just a nice time saver. That's a neat addition, really
river.
Smart thing. Very clever. The other one was like using clay to kind of lay down roads almost. So it seems to some degree that we are civilizing this island, maybe, right? Like we start out this barren island and we kind of build an entire town almost, is the vibe I'm getting, right?
Yeah, it's interesting whether the island is like an area and then you will get to a town later, or whether that island becomes the town. Like that wasn't really clear one way or another.
I think the island becomes the town. That's what I saw from a lot of the things there was you start off and it's kind of an empty island and you have yourself and Tom Nook and there's not really anyone else there. And slowly you kind of build up, and eventually, you build up your real estate game, you build some new houses so that new animals can come there. Which I wonder what that would mean for the early game if there's no animals there because no one's living there. But that's potential for them to explain and
I'm super glad they're mixing up the formula. I think the crafting is a fantastic idea. Like just making it a little bit more like Harvest Moon, a little bit more like Stardew Valley. I think that's fantastic. I'm interested to know, like, say that the island you start on is the town and whatever that becomes. Like once the town becomes like a regular Animal Crossing game, is that the limit, or do you think you might end up crafting more to build higher buildings, or all of a sudden does it become more like a city and less like a town? Like I want to know the scope of that crafting.
Sure, or do you potentially expand into different places? Are you always on this island the whole time? Is there more to the world? Like what kind of situation are we in?
And the sort of the multiplayer human part we saw, where there's 8 humans with you.
Right, which I didn't really realise on first watch through, but when I watched through again, I was like, wait a second, the end of this trailer is a bunch of human characters, not animal characters, all together on the island, right? And there's 8 of them, right? So that suggests 8-player online multiplayer, which is exciting. Does that suggest potentially sharing islands, potentially having, co-op islands together, like having a whole island where it's just you and your friends living there? That could be a fun idea. I don't know. I'm
still quietly confident there might be an independent place where there will be that public online forum.
Right, the social hub area.
The social hub, the trading, the market, the whatever you want to call it. And if they can combine that with what we've seen so far of that crafting and building, and I would love it if you were able to like get flats and skyscrapers and keep going and build bigger and bigger buildings. And I would really, really like that personally, like a more Stardew Valley, almost a Sim City-esque.
Just having more of a end game almost, like, because the game in Animal Crossing was paying off your house, and like once that's done, you kind of don't have any like tasks that you are going after. So I think
you're going after like the best score possible on decorating your house, I guess, ultimately.
Sure, and you're also trying to get everything for the museum, and you're also trying to get all the fish, like all that collection stuff. But yeah, once you kind of lose that incentive of like, well, I've paid everything off, like that's where Animal Crossing games tend to fall off a cliff for me, because like I kind of get to that point, and then I'm like, I'm done. I don't really need to do it.
Hopefully that crafting scope can be a real hefty game to it and be its own thing. And as I said, hopefully there's still like a real emphasis on a public forum in some way, but there's scope for it. We really didn't see much of it, and I think the delay to March 20th is quite a big kick, because we were mentioning that Nintendo has so much coming out that there's probably a strong chance something's going to get delayed, and we were kind of agreed that we'd be surprised if it was Animal Crossing, just because it's such a big hitter. So
I mean, as soon as I saw that Animal Crossing was not on the playable thing at E3, I was like, this. As soon as I saw Luigi was the one that was confirmed for this year, I was like, I think Animal Crossing might be the one that slips, because it had to be one of them. Like it just had to be one of them, because their lineup is too stacked.
And when I saw that, I thought that there was a chance that maybe Animal Crossing doesn't demo well. Maybe they don't want to show a demo for a game that doesn't demo well, or something dumb. But I'm sure Animal Crossing has demoed in the past anyway. So yeah, it was weird. So I was gonna say that when I saw that, maybe Animal Crossing is the one to get the hit, and it seems to have done so, and it's now coming out in the most busy time in games ever in that first quarter of 2020.
Yeah, man, like next year is, it's so heavy. It's ridiculous. We've got Ori, we've got Animal Crossing now, we've got fucking Cyberpunk and Final Fantasy VII Remake. How am I going to survive? It's a lot the start of next year. It's exciting, but it's also just like, God, can we like maybe spread this out a little bit?
Watch Dogs 3.
Watch Dogs 3, yeah. Lots of stuff. Cool. And then we had a montage after Animal Crossing. Lots of cool little things. We'll just mention a few. Spyro is coming, that's exciting. That's coming September. I know you've been interested in picking up Spyro at some point. Balance to Switch might be the place to get it. I really like that game. Hollow Knight Silksong, still no release date on that. I think this was leaked a few days ago, but Ni no Kuni is coming to Switch, the original Ni no Kuni, which is exciting because Ni no Kuni originally debuted on DS in Japan years and years ago before it was put out for PS3 and kind of redone and everything. So the original PS3 Ni no Kuni is now coming on September 20th to Switch, which is great. I really like Ni no Kuni 2, so that's fun. And then we had, kind of reaffirming, hey, Doom is coming, Wolfenstein is coming, which, that's good. I like Bethesda support the Switch. Wolfenstein looking still pretty rough. The two games that I was like, I will definitely play these on my PC and not anywhere else is like Wolfenstein and obviously Witcher, which I've already played on my PC, but that's how that goes. One of the ones that stood out to me the most in this montage was Super Lucky's Tale, which was kind of a prelude to what happened after this montage, because I saw that and I was like, wait a second, Microsoft, what are we doing? We're just announcing this game, which is a Microsoft published game. It was originally an Oculus VR game that launched with Oculus. Then they kind of changed it into an Xbox first party thing, and it was non VR platforming. And now it's coming to Switch, which it fits well on Switch. It's a cutesy platformer, which is fine, I think, by all accounts. But it's another Microsoft published game that's on Switch, and I was like, okay, well, looks like you might have some other things coming. The thing that I wanted to mention actually, Bal, is there no sign of Ori in the Blind Forest in this direct at all, which
good point.
I was expecting to be fair. I think that I think it's going to happen, but maybe in a little bit of time. They may hold on to it until next year when the sequel comes out and do a bit of hype before the sequel. That might be a thing that they do. But the biggest announcement of the entire Direct,
I was just going to say, before you go to the big announcement,
Dauntless is coming to Switch. I'm just going to say. So Dauntless is a game that I've been playing a lot of on PC recently. Really like it. It's like a Monster Hunter style game, but kind of pares down a lot of the annoying, weird elements of Monster Hunter and kind of gets to the meat of it, which is a lot of fun. I really like it. It's a lot of fun on PC, and it's also cross progression. So you can play it on PS4 and PC and keep the same character, same everything, all the weapons and items that I've upgraded. I have. So Dauntless coming to Switch later this year is perfect because I can just port my character over, play that, in some downtime. That's a really good multiplayer game that I just really like having there and enjoy quite a bit.
But I think what's awesome is that how strong this montage is in general. Montages are normally saved, especially by Nintendo, for the much smaller stuff, and the sheer strength of a lot of the stuff they showed off here, even stuff like Mario Maker 2 is now part of the montage. I mean, obviously it's coming out later this month, but normally
it had its own direct, and
sure, it did have its own direct, but I mean, so did Pokemon, and it got a spotlight, I guess, even in this direct. So to have it,
I think it was pretty good in terms of the zero focus on Pokemon and Mario Maker. Generally, I felt so.
Yeah, it was really good. But Hollow Knight, Silksong, Spyro, Wolfenstein, these Doom, these are huge games where there were long periods of Nintendo's life where we would be like, why then no third party games? And now they've got big AAA third parties that are going into a montage. That's just a real sign of how far the Switch has come.
Yeah, for sure. It's very encouraging, and there's a lot of stuff on there that still makes me very frustrated. Dead by Daylight looks like straight fucking garbage. Who ported that game? It just, the frame rate, the resolution, it's like Ark. Ark Survival Evolved on Switch is disgusting. It is the most disgusting port of a game I've ever seen in my life. It is just it is embarrassing, quite frankly. And I think the thing that I dislike a lot about the Switch in terms of third-party ports is a lot of these companies that try and just shove their game on there without really doing the optimization or really trying to get the game working properly. And a game like Dead by Daylight just looks like fucking trash. And it just makes the system look bad. It's a system that Nintendo can make a game like Super Mario Odyssey run at a smooth 60 frames per second. Just a beautiful game. This system is capable of producing really good-looking games. And a lot of people aren't able to do that, but hey, that's maybe a silly thing to be annoyed by, but whatever. And Okay, cool.
And then the direct ended, and we all went home moderately happy.
Yeah, exactly. And then that was the end of the direct, and it was like, yeah, that's cool. We got Dragon Quest. We got like No More Heroes 3. That was pretty neat. No, Bally. They so I thought they closed with a Smash Sandwich, which I had predicted kind of because Smash Sandwich is always a good formula. They did it before with the Mii Fighter and with Palutena at E3. They've done it even during a Smash Direct with the Belmonts and then with King K. Rool. So Smash Sandwich is a patented thing that Nintendo likes to do, and they did. But then there was also a little bit of a cherry on top of that Smash Sandwich. So Banjo-Kazooie's in fucking Smash Brothers. I can say that, and that's a real thing. That's real. That's not a joke. That's not an internet mob saying Phil Spencer put this on Switch. That's reality. How do you feel about this new reality in which we live?
Yep, that was pretty big. Like that was, and that's the thing I was talking about earlier with like Dragon Quest. Like that's a very traditional prediction. Like Smash Brothers is very Japan focused generally.
Totally.
Banjo, you can't get more of a Western character than someone like Banjo, who's developed by Rare, British company, owned by Microsoft. American
you can get you definitely can get a more Western character. Banjo-Kazooie, I mean, it was on a Nintendo console, so
that's true.
It
obviously,
was
someone like, I don't know, Nathan Drake, fine, but like...
Yes, Nathan Drake is much more of a Western character than Banjo-Kazooie, but sure. I get what you're saying,
it does feel more like an exception compared to other characters. And like... I'm hyped because there are a lot of people hyped. I'm not going to try and pretend I'm like a traditional Banjo fan. I've not played a Banjo game. I do think it is just an exciting thing, and like I like Rare games. I'll definitely say that. But like I think that it is just a sign of the times that Microsoft and Nintendo can do a character like this in a Nintendo game. I think that is a really awesome thing. The statement is almost bigger than the character for me personally.
It is. It is. It 100% is. It's the statement that this is possible. That we live in a world of video games in 2019 where this is not only possible, but it kind of was predictable almost. Like, I still, Microsoft and Nintendo, they've been building this thing for a while. It kind of has been in the cards. I think that people have been expecting it. But also, it's still ridiculous that it's actually happened. Like, it is at the same time obvious, but also stupid. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy that this is real. But also, it's kind of not. Like, it's in that very weird place where Banjo-Kazooie clearly was originally a Nintendo character owned by Rare, a studio that Microsoft bought from them. Phil Spencer, very friendly guy, always talks about how he loves working with Nintendo, how he goes to lunch with those guys at E3 last year, he mentioned in his Jeff Gersman interview, and I think that this was a thing that he has talked about publicly on Twitter in the past, being like, yeah, I would love to see Banjo-Kazooie in Smash, like, of course I would. But the question was, will Nintendo allow that? Will Nintendo want to work with him to do that? And I think it is so telling that Sakurai was not in control of these last few announcements, and that he said Nintendo have decided that they're going to do some crazy shit with this. They're going to decide these announcements, and our announcements are basically all third-party partnerships. Firstly with Joker from Persona 5, then with the Dragon Quest hero, and now with Banjo-Kazooie with Microsoft. It set a precedent, and I think that this round of Smash DLC is simultaneously the craziest, but also like this is the route Smash was going. This is the route Nintendo was going this whole time, and we're there. We have arrived at Valhalla. I don't know what the last two characters in Smash Brothers is. Frankly, I'm not sure I care, because they've kind of given us the earth, the heaven, the stars, and everything else beyond at this point. It really, really is just gravy at this point in time.
Is it a bit weird that Banjo is revealed now and wasn't revealed as the final character? Or like, are the next characters going to be even bigger, or is that just far too high of like a watermark to set? Like, it just seems, maybe it feels like a weird time.
I don't think they've necessarily... I think that Banjo will be the peak. I think this is the peak, but I think the decision to do that in the middle is because of the circumstances of this year in particular, and I think the circumstances of their relationship currently with Microsoft. I think it's been a build that the start of this year we got Cuphead on Switch. We know Ori is going to be coming. Like, it's not been announced, but like, it's so obvious that it's happening. It hurts. It's so obvious. I think right now, as a statement of the relationship, as a statement of Sony not being at E3, I think this was the year and the time to do Banjo-Kazooie. And I think it is very much like, boom, we've got Persona. Then it's like, okay, we've got Dragon Quest. That's not going to be as exciting for most people. It's another Sword character, not as well known to a lot of people, Smash Brothers fans, things like that. So we're going to put that one as the second character. But then, here's Banjo. Boom, this is the focus now, Banjo. So I think it might go with that kind of wave graph, if you know what I mean, where like Joker was a big pop, then we kind of come down a bit for the Dragon Quest hero, then we have Banjo's a big pop. I think character 4 is going to be coming down a little bit, and then we end with character 5 with something that nobody sees coming and is ridiculous. I feel like that's the kind of sequence of events that we're on at the moment.
And then that was it. That was a direct. That was a big finish, and we were like, right, that is a strong direct. That was
the Smash Sandwich. They did the Smash Sandwich. Love it.
We're going home, happy campers. Well done, Nintendo.
And then Shinya Takahashi, that sly motherfucker, leans into the camera and fucking whispers at us. He fucking whispers, "Hey, by the way, I got some of this illegal shit down the back. You want some of this shit?" And he's like, "One more thing," which is it might be my favorite thing about press conferences or just presentations, is the one more thing.
One more thing.
Because a well done one more thing is more joyful than most things in this world.
Absolutely.
And it starts out, and you know, we see these like green lights flowing and things like that, and it cuts this like weird pan out of like this tangle of like weird black magic and this underground area.
It looked more organic than magic to me, which is why I was thinking it was more Metroid initially.
Yeah, like, I mean, I was kind of thinking about Metroid Fusion maybe being a thing, but I was like, oh, I don't know if that's a big enough, like, it's not bigger than Banjo, so you don't close on that, do you? But then, like, as soon as I see the torch and like the kind of inscriptions, I'm like, oh shit, it's Zelda, and I start losing my mind. And yes, indeed, it is the sequel to Breath of the Wild. We have the same Link, the same Zelda. She got a haircut, looking good. Same Link, same Zelda. They're underground. It looks like from the framing of the trailer that it's underneath Hyrule Castle. And there's some really ancient shit going on. And this valley is so much the Ocarina to Majora for Breath of the Wild.
Absolutely.
Because the tone of this thing is dark. This thing is
dark.
Scary, and it like is a skeletal thing that like turns its head and the eyes like start glowing.
The eyes look like the eyes of Sauron, actually, if you like.
Yeah, there's some creepy shit going on for sure. So it's darker, it's more grim, but it is a direct sequel, and we zoom out and it is the same world. It's the same Breath of the Wild Hyrule, which is interesting, right? Because we talked about this before, about whether that would be the play for them, would be, do they use the same world but change a lot of the stuff inside it? Like, do they show that civilization has come back and stuff like that? And I think that might be the case here. It might be, and this might be how they get this game out soon, is that they are reusing assets, obviously. Same engine, same characters, probably a lot of similar gameplay elements, but I'm sure they're going to mix it up. I'm sure they're going to do new things and really implement a bunch of different stuff. But this is very exciting, and it is the first tease that we get of the next Zelda game, which I'll tell you what, like, Zelda games generally don't have this quick a turnaround in terms of showing the next one.
It's not out yet.
And no, it's not out yet. I feel like this is holiday 2021. You know, that's how far out this is.
I think that's at the earliest, but I think that is a good time that this could come. Absolutely.
I feel like that is like, because next year 2020 we'll probably get a bit more of a deeper dive into what this game actually is at E3, and then like they'll set it for another date. Maybe they won't even show it next year at E3. They might do the Yoshi thing where they're like, you know, it's taking time, we're going to take some more time with it.
I think that's a very strong possibility that we don't see it next year.
But, potential.
I don't think I could be much happier with what this had in it. I think like my random prediction of like Zelda, the focus being on Zelda, I think there might be more of a focus on Zelda, and that's great. Like let's see if there's a slim chance he might be playable. I mean, the fact that Link's there suggests maybe not, but
what if something happens to Link at the start of this game? What if he gets abducted by this weird fucking skeletal creature and Zelda's the one who escapes?
Yeah, I mean, I get the impression that that will be in the first few hours of the game, and then,
for sure.
Yeah, I think if something happened to Link and he got abducted, I think that would be fantastic. And not for Link, but for the game. And I think that
definitely, yes.
There's something going on that is going to really revolutionize like what that world is about, I feel. And I think that it's nice to sit on that curiosity for a while.
Yeah, man. I love we're back in that time again, and we're back in Zelda speculation time. Exactly. Which is my favorite time. I love it.
And I want to see that game explain analysis so bad. And
I want
to know if it will just be the same world, or whether there will be a dark form of that world, or whether there will be like a new area or something. I'd be quite surprised if it's purely the same world without drastic change. I think that there's either going to be a drastic change or a new area. But a Zelda teaser. It's just what I wanted. And yeah, that one more thing just really left a really great taste in your mouth for that Nintendo Direct by the end. And
I think it matters, right? Like, I think that had we not had those two announcements, I would have said this is a solid E3 showing with what they have, which is they've already shown us what games they have coming out, and they had some surprises. No More Heroes 3 was a big surprise. Luigi's Mansion, seeing some gameplay, and obviously seeing Animal Crossing gameplay. All those things, great. All those things, really fun. But it was the last two pops that were just like, do you know what? What are the most things that people get excited about? Smash Brothers, crossovers, and Zelda. How about we do all of those at once in like a period of 2 minutes? How about we inject that into your veins? How about we make you forget that Banjo-Kazooie was announced for Smash by announcing the sequel to Zelda Breath of the Wild? Which is what happened for me.
And
I came out and I was like, oh wait, Banjo.
This Direct even had like remakes of Zelda as well, and like there was a lot of Zelda, and I think Nintendo are always at their best when they're doing a lot with Zelda, so that's
for sure.
Really,
and
good
Zelda
to
in
see.
So many different ways, like the remake of Link's Awakening, Cadence of Hyrule, this new indie thing that they're doing, and obviously the sequel to their biggest game ever. It's a great diversity, I think, and I think Zelda is such a strong franchise for them with that diversity. So great that they're just showing it off in full force.
And it's just such a nice reminder at the end of that Direct where there were some fairly ugly looking Switch games shown.
Yeah.
Just to say, you know what? When we're in charge of how like the development process and everything with our system, we can really make the Switch sing, and you really got that with Breath of the Wild, and this teaser trailer just looked fantastic.
I mean, confirming a sequel to Breath of the Wild all but confirms a sequel to Odyssey in my mind. Like, I think that next year probably, I think E3 next year we get Odyssey 2 probably, and that's going to be fun. And I think, in all honesty, Odyssey 2 will probably come out before Breath of the Wild, just because the timelines on Mario vs. Zelda.
Well, the turnaround on Odyssey 1 was very small. It was like January. We found out about it in January, and it came out in October, right?
Right. Well, I mean, in terms of like reveal to release, very quick, but also in terms of development time, much faster.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah.
You know, in terms of the Mario team, works a lot faster than the Zelda team does. Generally, so
also technically Mario Odyssey we saw in the Switch reveal before January.
Yeah.
So.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mario Odyssey got revealed at E3 next year and came out 2020 holiday, Odyssey 2, and then Zelda would be the year after that. But I got to say, like with the lineup they had, with what we expected them to show, I think they did a killer job. The only thing that I would want is a bit of Metroid in there, or a bit of a franchise that is a forgotten franchise that needs to be brought back.
It's like a Wave Race, and F-Zero, a Pikmin, Advance.
Yeah, just like one of them. Just like one of them.
Yeah.
Just give me one Pikmin or just one Wave Race or just one of those is all I kind of needed for this to be like God tier Nintendo Direct.
And the equivalent of that slot was a like No More Heroes 3. Like that was a surprise.
Exactly, for sure.
This is coming out. You weren't expecting it, and that's good. So. Yeah, I think it was really strong. Like the more we've talked about it, and the really strong finish with Banjo and Breath of the Wild teaser, like sequel teaser, really, really strong direct. I think it is. I am disappointed about Animal Crossing being delayed, and I really am so curious about what more that has.
Yeah, if I would say like one thing, I would say I don't think we really got to know enough about Animal Crossing.
No.
They didn't spend too much time. But in all fairness, I think that the pacing of this direct facilitated that type of showing for Animal Crossing. If we'd had a 10-minute developer deep dive into Animal Crossing, it would have been fun, but I think it would have ruined the pacing. And to be frank with you, I think they do a much better job just relegating that to a Treehouse segment. Like, you'll get more Animal Crossing footage this week. It'll be on Treehouse. Enjoy digging deep into it there. I think this was just a function of announcing the game and showing some new features and being like, hey, it exists, here it is, take a look at it. This is the pitch on this game.
Because there was about 10 to 15 minutes left, and we hadn't seen Animal Crossing yet, and I was totally ready for that deep dive on Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
and then they did it. It was like a minute and a half delayed, March 20th. Here's a little bit of what it is, and then it was like, right, now we're doing a montage, and it's like there's a lot of time left, and I guess they finished the montage, right, there's still a bit of time left, and then it was like boom boom, Banjo Breath of the Wild sequel. Like, wow. Really surprising finish when I was just getting mentally ready for that Animal Crossing deep dive, but
for sure
it's okay that it wasn't there, and they certainly replaced it with some great announcements. So overall, very happy.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's great. This has been a really solid E3 for Nintendo. I think they crushed the competition. Like, there is no question that Nintendo had the best showing at E3 this year. I think we're going to talk about the other stuff in another podcast, which we can kind of maybe mention here at the end. Because if you didn't know, if you're a new listener, you just tuned in to listen to our E3 coverage. With This Nintendo Life, we have a Patreon where you can get some bonus episodes of the show. And this month we are going to be talking about the other things at E3 for our bonus episode. Our bonus podcast is usually TNL Takes, or TNL Ranks. We've got two of them. One of them is like a non-video game chat, and one of them is like ranking video game things. And this month is TNL Ranks, which would usually be top 5 of something. We might do that as like, here are our top 5 other announcements of E3 in terms of the other people. But that will be coming out next week if you are interested in that. And that's $2 at our Patreon. So you can head over to patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife and you can sign up there and listen to all the bonus podcasts that we do, including the one that's coming out next week where we'll talk about our favourite things that were from the other companies at E3, essentially.
Yeah. And if you're a new listener, thank you for listening, and we hope you stick around. We got loads of shows to come. Yeah, for sure. So Bally, we would also like to thank our patrons for helping us fund the show. Yes, thank you to our two $10 tier patrons there, my fiance Caroline and Atari Alex. Thank you for your support, and thank you to all of our other patrons. It's hugely appreciated, the support you give the show. We do it for free. We do it for free, and it takes a lot of time, and we really appreciate something back for all that time. So definitely. Thank you. Absolutely. You can obviously find the show in loads of different places, and reviewing us on iTunes right now would be a great time to do that, because as we said, it's E3, people are looking for E3 podcasts and people talking about Nintendo and all that fun stuff. So please go over and review us on iTunes, write up a review, tell us your thoughts on the show, and give us ratings and all that good stuff. That is incredibly helpful. Really, really would appreciate that if you go and do it. We will obviously be back in 2 weeks for a regular show. We'll kind of wrap up some things, probably some Treehouse stuff that gets shown. That there might be some extra announcements. Like a couple of years ago they did. Got to go over our predictions. Yeah, they got to go over predictions that we did. A couple of years ago, I think it was Sushi Striker was one of the bonus games that popped up. Treehouse usually has a couple of announcements or two. I think we'll find out what that Mario Maker slot might be. Yeah, that could be. They didn't mention that. Interesting. That would be fun. They also they'll announce a bunch of stuff on social media. They literally just after the direct announced an amiibo for the Link's Awakening Link, which is adorable, and I think people want to buy that. So stay tuned for that in a couple of weeks' time, and you can find us in lots of different places around the internet. Bally, where can people find you? I'm on Twitter at Ballymine91. That's BALLYMN 91.
Fantastic. You can find me at LordNBZ, and you can follow the podcast Twitter, which is at TNL Podcast, and that will give you, of course, all of the updates on our YouTube channel, our Discord, links to all those places that you can get involved with the show, and you can get involved with the show by sending us emails as well, which you can send to our email address that Bally will tell you right now.
Please send them to ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That's ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. We want your thoughts on E3. What did you think of that Direct? We'll be talking about that and all the other Treehouse stuff going on next time, so we want your thoughts on it all.
Yeah, please email us and let us know. And I think that's pretty much it. After I edit this podcast, I'm just going to spend the rest of the night just watching reactions to Nintendo, because
Yes.
I feel like the internet is going to be just plentiful with lots of fun stuff for me to look at. So
yes,
exciting stuff.
Zelda reveals are a special time, and
they are. I
know I predicted one. I'm not saying I thought it was going to happen, but I'm
Nostradamus
I'm
Bally over here.
It happened, and
it did happen.
I love seeing the internet react to Zelda reveal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Great. So that's going to close us out. Thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy your E3. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye, folks.